because they are doing to the environment what they are doing to human labor. They are squeezing it for everything until they kill it. These corporations that are responsible for plunging us towards a kind of neo-feudalism are at the same time destroying the planet that sustains the ecosystem that sustains the human species. And I think that what we're grappling with is not solely a political crisis or solely an economic crisis, but a moral crisis. And I certainly saw it in this book, the common thread that runs through it. It's this moral nihilism, this celebrity culture, this incapacity to value anything that is not commodified, i.e. given a financial value. We determine our success in life by the money we make, and that becomes its own morality. It doesn't matter how you get there. It is a disastrous kind of cult of the self. And I think that this is the product of a consumer culture that rose primarily after World War I, where corporations, through advertising, created consumption as an inner compulsion. It created a kind of frightening hedonism, a belief in the chasing after an elusive happiness, which of course only produced more anxiety within the society, which these corporations then promised to ameliorate or to solve through the sale of products or experiences or status or brands or anything else. And the rise of that corporate culture meant the destruction of authentic culture, American culture. It replaced something that came before. And it replaced old values, values of thrift, values of communitarian experience, values of self-sacrifice, a search for meaning. We live in a culture where meaning is irrelevant. Integrity is irrelevant. It is all about image. It's about presentation. That's what social networking on Facebook, for instance, is largely about. It's about what corporate image making is about. It's about what political image making is about. If people have a negative opinion of what you're doing, you don't change your behavior. You change the public relations process by which image is disseminated throughout society. You saw the Israelis do this after the incursion in Gaza. They hired a huge public relations firm and started sending out the Israeli orchestra and theater groups to change their image. They didn't change their behavior, and that's just symptomatic of a commodity culture.
This is a demonstration of Wirecast.
I've had approximately 20 different specials appear on public television stations around the United States, some on the national circuit, others to different stations. One of those was Washington, D.C., and I had done about 5 different programs at that point. And this was on showing what's wrong with our American diet. And I'd had David Slater, one of our in-house counsel, pour out that day, earlier in the day, how much sugar, by all standards, an average kid eats in a day. And it was 40 teaspoons. And that's actually not how much the average kid eats, because a lot of kids don't eat any, and a lot of kids therefore eat more. But he poured it out. It was in a bag. I put that bag in a box. And then when I was talking on the air, I just poured it out. And I said, this is how much your kid is getting in a day. And then you wonder why the kid's not sleeping at night and not paying attention in class. And here's artificial sweeteners that are known to have adverse effects on the neurons of the brain. And then they've got their cell phone with electromagnetic pulses affecting chromosomes, and they're sitting in front of a television, they're losing their biological clock, they're not getting sleep, they're getting into class in the morning, they're tired, they take the caffeine to get them awake, as much as 800 milligrams of caffeine a day, and yet the kid instantly would be diagnosed with ADD and ADHD, put on a whole pharmaceutical regimen, stigmatized for life. We've got it wrong. Anyhow, the show was accepted, it's successful. Program director came over afterwards and says, very good. You raised a record amount of money for Thursday evening and on prime time. I'll play this about 8 times over the rest of the course of the fund drive. About an hour later, the same program director came over and said, I'm sorry, but I won't be able to play the show anymore. In fact, you won't be back on this station ever again. I said, why? What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. This is the politics of PBS. Sharon Rockefeller is on the board. She's the head of the board of the local public television station.
This is a
And she got a call from
demonstration
the
of
Sugar Institute,
Wirecast.
who was offended by me denigrating sugar, and then Sharon called, and it's done. I can't do anything about it here. And I thought only Channel 13 had that kind of dirty politics, because Channel 13 had Henry Kravitz as his president. And Henry Kravitz, as you may or may not know, is the head of a major corporate buyout firm and owns a tobacco company, RG Nabisco. And we know that tobacco kills 20 people worldwide each year, and a lot of them in
This is a
America.
demonstration of Wirecast.
So the question is, if you're supposed to be about the public good and the higher evolutionary principles, why would you have people that are tied directly into Sharon Rockefeller, who sits on the board of Pepsi-Cola, a major user of that sugar, the Sugar Institute, connected to her and her bringing pressure, or Henry Kravitz sitting on the board, and yet the public's clueless about this. The people on these boards are generally the power brokers in any given area, whether they're pharmaceutical companies, which they are, but they're not average people.
Wirecast.
So I accepted that, they don't want me back because unless I compromise, I'm not going to compromise. I'd rather not be on television than not to tell the truth. There's an old Jewish saying, a half-truth is a full lie. If I can't tell the full truth, then I simply will accept that I'm not going to be on that public television station, and that's what it is. Channel 13 is one of the worst. It's all about politics. People don't know any of this. But what it tells me is, who really controls access to the media in America?
Demonstration of Wirecast.
Who can say, what you're saying, Chris Hedges, I don't like, it's going to affect my business, I'm going to put a call into someone and you're not going to appear anymore. And yet no one will ever know this. And this goes on all the time. I've spoken with Ralph Nader about this, because this has happened to him many times. Your thoughts on this whole idea of how much power individuals have who are politically and economically connected, and that usurps everything.
Well, we have 6 to 8 corporations that control virtually everything we see, read, hear, and watch in the United States. Viacom, Disney, General Electric, Rupert Murdoch's News Corp. And that's part of the problem. We watched after World War I, with the rise of the advertising industry, newspaper profits increased 12-fold. This allowed for huge conglomerations or corporations to buy up and destroy the independent alternative press. Newspapers that couldn't, like PM's experiment,
this is a demonstration of
Wirecast. Corporate advertising died, and there's a price for that. For many years, newspapers would not go after the tobacco industry, although there were clear links between tobacco and cancer, because tobacco was a huge advertising.
Or the nuclear industry.
Or the nuclear industry, or look at the healthcare debate right now. I mean, any factual discussion of healthcare should begin from the understanding that the for-profit healthcare industry is the problem.
This is a
and must be
demonstration of
destroyed.
Wirecast.
Then we can talk about forms of healthcare, alternative forms of healthcare. That debate will never happen because the for-profit healthcare industry has the power through the corruption of campaign contributions and lobbying firms, and the ability to saturate the airwaves with mendacious lies to drive the debate. And that is repeated, by the oil and gas industry, as if the oil and gas industry is going to be part of the solution
of Wirecast.
In our struggle to build systems of sustainable energy. The oil and gas industry has no interest in building real systems of sustainable energy because it would make them extinct. And so these corporations, they're kind of deus obscundus behind the scenes.